0. Hey everybody, Happy New Year! This is my first new video of the year, and welcome to it. As I've said in the past few videos, my name is John, but my friends call me Izzy, and you can too, and this is Izzy's Painting Workshop. Hey everybody, so in today's episode we're going to go over airbrushing. We're going to airbrush the piece that we worked on earlier. In the past two episodes we stripped the model and we based the model. So I encourage you to look at those two videos if you're just starting with us today, so you can catch up with where we are, but it's not really necessary to learn anything about what we're doing today. Today we're going to be working with the airbrush, and I will show you what I use. The products that I use, I don't remember what the name brand of my airbrush compressor is, but it was like $50. And my actual airbrush is a Badger Patriot 105. I got it for like $65 online. I like hunted the internet, scoured it, and like waited until a Black Friday and pounced. And I got a $65 airbrush. So it's way cheaper than most airbrushes, and it's a very good quality airbrush. Also, Badger doesn't pay me to say this. I'm not sponsored by anybody. But yeah, basically it's cheap and it's reliable. It does the job, and yeah, so that's what I use. I'll also briefly go over what tools I use here too. I'll do a quick clip of that. But alright, let's have at it and just get into it. Hey folks, so I just want to take a minute to go over what tools I use and what my workbench looks like, basically, so that we can have an overview of painting. Today we're going to go over using an airbrush, and I'll show you what I use. Alright, so here's my compressor. I don't have it plugged in yet, but basically it's just a $50 compressor that I got off of the internet. I have two lamps with daylight bulbs in them so that I can get daylight on the painting area, so that because it's good to have a nice full spectrum lamp when you're painting. And the brush I'm using is a Badger Patriot Model 105 with a 0.5 millimeter needle. And see it here. It comes with a second nozzle if you need it, and I've kept it in the box. This is a little adapter for the air hose. I don't own a quick release because I only own one airbrush. I have this thing, which I don't really use it so much just for overspray. I just mostly use it to hold the airbrush in while I'm working with it. I use a cup with a paper towel in it because the guy from Hobby Cheating said that it's a good idea, and it works. And today we're going to be using Vallejo Black Surface Primer and Vallejo White Surface Primer to lay down a basic zenithal prime, and then we're going to be coating it. We're going to be doing a base coat with game color. It's going to be these two guys, Imperial Blue and Magic Blue, because they're just nice colors, and they're also Vallejo. And let me just show you what I've got the miniature on. So I just keep a plastic bag over my projects to keep them from getting dusty. And this guy is on a medicine bottle that's full of coins and loose change. And on the top, I glued a washer, which is it's like 2 cents for a washer. I have this guy, which I got from Redgrass Games. it works okay. It's not bad, but like, and it's got this little magnet thing, so it, it sort of sticks. But I got another project over there I'm working on. Anyway, the bottle was free, and we all have loose change, so that's what. All right, so I'm gonna start mixing up the chemicals that we're gonna. The chemicals. I'm gonna start mixing up the paint that goes into the brush. Is that on camera? Yeah, the paint that goes into the brush. And I use this old paint blister for it. It's a trick that Angel uses. I learned that from him. So I highly recommend his channel, especially if you're airbrush centric. He's very good with an airbrush. And I will be using Airbrush Thinner, Vallejo. And very important, shake your paints. Just shake the hell out of them. So I'm gonna do about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drops of primer to about 1, 2, 3, 4 drops of thinner. And then I'm just going to use an old gunked up paintbrush that I don't use often and mix it. Make sure there's good consistency. You see it's kind of, you see that consistency? Should be decent. And then you can just pour it in. Yeah, that's fine. Take it off camera. And test it on a paper first. See if we've got good consistency. We do. And we're just going to go over this guy and just do thin coats. And if you see, if you look at how I'm moving my finger on the needle, I'm not depressing this back all the way. This is a dual action airbrush, so pushing down gives air and pulling back ejects paint. So you just do it in small motions. To get just a thin coat. You don't want to build up too much paint because it'll obscure detail. So as you see, I'm just doing small thin coats. It is important to get the whole miniature with this step though, because this is the black paint, so this is what we want in the shadows and in the crevices of the actual miniature. And looks like I need to mix more paint in. I just keep hitting that guy. Just short bursts. And I'm trying to get in the crevices. Alright, and we're going to give this guy a little bit of time to dry until we switch to the next color primer. Okay, So this guy's had a little bit of time to dry. Not too much, don't worry too much about it, but you know, you can see we got a good coverage on him. And now we're gonna take the white surface primer, shake that up a lot, clean the black paint out of this tray. You don't have to be too crazy about it, but you know, you're putting white paint in, so you want to keep that into account. And basically same thing, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drops of paint. I'm gonna do 4 drops of thinner, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and just check the. Now the only thing with white primer you got to watch out for is you get dry tip sometimes. So that's white tends to be more opaque, but it also tends to be thicker, so you get dry tip. But here we're gonna, you see we're holding the miniature from the top down, and we're just spraying to hit the parts on top. You notice on the bottom we're not hitting so much, but we are going to hit a little bit there. We don't want that whole part to be black, but you see how we're hitting it, and oh, we've got dry tip. So what I do for dry tip is I take a little bit of airbrush cleaner and a cotton bud, cotton swab, we just call them Q-tips, whatever, and just get some cleaner on that, and then just twist around till you get all that paint off the tip, and it should be good to go. Keep it handy. And now we'll go back to hitting this guy with some white. Notice we're keeping it at an angle so that like we don't hit the extreme bottom with the white. We want to preserve shadows. So you see there's shadows built into there with the white and the black. You can see it. And to get the paint out of there, this is just a mixture. It's a squeezy bottle. It's like $2 at the craft store or whatever. And basically you just fill that there and hold the tip, pinch the tip, and just get it to bubble. Backflow it a little bit. Dump it out. Wash, rinse, repeat. Alright. And then just one last time. This I picked up from Hobby Cheating. Vince Ventrell is an excellent painter and somebody to take notes from. I highly recommend watching the Hobby Cheating channel. I've definitely learned a lot from it. So Vince usually wears gloves, I don't, but I just take a paper towel and just clean the bits out of there. It shouldn't spray anymore. It shouldn't spray white anymore. And so that's that. And now we can start switching to painting with color. Just wipe this out real quick, because we don't want this to mix with the colors we're going to be using. And first, we're going to go with the magic blue. Shake it like a Polaroid picture. And same formula. This is alright. just giving me some problems. So just take a paper clip or whatever you got handy, clear that out, clear that, and then, alright. So alright. I'm going to guesstimate that that's about 8 drops of paint. So 8 drops of paint to 2, 3, 4 drops of thinner. Basically, I'm doing this at a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 drops of paint to 1 drop of thinner. The thinner's not expensive. It's not, but. And I see Angel use water a lot with different paints as opposed to thinner when he does this, but I just prefer thinner because it's in a nice little dropper bottle squeegee thing for me, and I can just measure out the drops easily. But your mileage may vary. You do you. And once again, we're going to put this in the cup. And you saw how quickly I changed from that white paint, from that white primer to this blue paint. And once again, we're going to check. And that's good. That looks like a good ratio. And that's coming out real bright. You see how bright that is? Magic blue is very magic. And now we're just going to hit... Whoa! Alright. Fun fact, you can get dry tip with blue paint too, just as easily as you can get dry tip with white paint. I don't know if you noticed, but like I'm just pulling back a little bit on the trigger. And getting this in. It'll still yeah, I know it looks like I'm painting over all the shadows we just did, but like the paint is thin enough that you can still see some of the shadows underneath it. But the shadows are more of a guide for volumes. So, and we're gonna also put shadows back in. So we're gonna let this guy dry a minute, and we're gonna switch paint. The Imperial Blue. Once again, shake it. Now, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drops of paint again. This time I'm going to put in a little bit more thinner than normal. I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drops of thinner as opposed to 4. Because I want this to be a particularly thin coat. This is going to be a shadow coat, and you'll see what I mean by that. You can see it's a darker coat. And just stir that up. And always check on the paper before you do it. Alright. So here we're going to come in from the bottom and we're coming in from the bottom and we're just hitting it with a little bit of undershade. And that's to reinforce those shadows that we put in the first place. And you see we're coming up from the bottom of the mini. I'm going to hit that foot. And here you see we have a very blue miniature. And that's about all the work we're going to do with the airbrush. Maybe you can see there's like a little bit of spots in here, so we'll get a little bit close. And yeah. Alright. That'll do. And you can see this is remarkably blue. We used thin coats. You can still see all the detail. We didn't do too much work on the gun because the gun's going to be a dark color anyway. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything I do with the airbrush. Alright, so here's our final result after airbrushing. And you can see that you could see that there's shadows as well as a light blue. Like the face is a little bit darker than I would have liked, but it's not that big a deal because we're gonna block it out a different color. And also, this is just a base coat. We're gonna absolutely shade and paint this differently. Also, if you notice in here, this is where we mated the miniature to the base and we did our puttying, and you can see once it's got paint on it, you can't even tell. You can't even tell. And yeah. Alright. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We laughed, we cried, we painted a model. Yeah, so glad to see you in this one. If you liked this video, hit like and subscribe and ring the bell because it does something, I think. Alright, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Later.